Okay, so far we have filled in this table in class, seeing how the sine of an angle, the cosine of an angle, and the tangent of an angle behave as the angle increases between 0 and 90 degrees. We only went up as far as 90 because if we think back to our unit circle, we always measure the angle against the horizontal. Okay, so up as far as 90 degrees, I can measure the angles from this line here, which goes back to 1, 1. Okay, so up as far as 90 degrees, I'm in my first quadrant. When I pass 90 degrees and I'm at, say, 91 degrees, okay, or what's more than 91 degrees, okay, but what I'm actually going to end up doing is measuring that angle against this horizontal here. Okay, so we move into the second quadrant there, but I'm still measuring my angle against the horizontal line. And one of the things our unit circle told us was what different parts are positive in each quadrant. So this was my first quadrant here, my second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. And we had to look at, okay, well, what is positive in each different quadrant? And we said if we stack the letters, we can see what is positive where. So if I stack the letters, so S, T, A, C, okay, we can see there what is positive in each quadrant. So in my first quadrant, all of them are positive, and that is what we looked at here. Okay, so when I went up as far as 90 degrees, I was assuming that was just 90 degrees from 1, 1 here. Okay, so 90 degrees in this first quadrant. When I move into the second quadrant then, I am moving back from what was an angle of, let's say, so we started off at something like 0 degrees, okay, and then I got to maybe 30 degrees to the horizontal, okay, I might have gotten up to even 90 degrees, okay, so even up here, I was at 90 degrees, okay, so the sine of 90 then is 1. As I get more than 90 degrees, the angle that I'm making with the horizontal begins to decrease then. Okay, so even though I'm moving back, even though my total angle might be getting bigger, okay, the angle with the horizontal actually begins to decrease again. So it'll be like 60 degrees. Okay, so it starts moving back towards 0. Now, sine of 0 is a positive number, well, it's 0. Sine of 30 is a positive, sine of 90 is a positive, and then I'm still in a quadrant where sine of an angle is positive. So sine of 60 here is going to still be a positive answer. Okay, so it's still going to be 0.866. And that's going to be the case all the way up until I'm at 0 degrees again here with the horizontal. Okay, and then when I start to move into, let's say, this point here, okay, that then might give me, let's say it's 10 degrees from the horizontal. Okay, but at this point, it's going to be the sine of 10, okay, but because I'm in the tangent, so sine isn't positive, that means that it's minus, my answer is going to be a minus 0.1736, okay? And we can show all these possible answers moving around the circle in one graph. So if we wanted, we could show all of this in one graph. And this is actually something that we are asked to do sometimes. So if I have a graph like this, okay, and I want to show my angles on the x-axis. Now, when we graph this, we're actually going to show our angles with radians, not degrees. So it's going to be the exact same, but remember, 90 degrees is pi over 2. Okay, so remember that 180 degrees is pi. And then we've got 3 over 2 pi. And then we're back up here to 0 again, so just 0. Okay, so we can actually try and graph this. And what we see when I'm graphing it is that, well, the highest I'm ever going to get is 90 degrees away. So I'm only actually going to be moving between values of, so starting at 0, I'll move up to 1. Okay, I'll get back to 0, and then the smallest number I'll get is -1, because I'll be 90 degrees away, or pi over 2 away from it, but where it's a negative, it's in a negative quadrant. Okay, so I might get down to -1 as well. So the range I'm going to have here, so what I'm going to have on my y-axis is just going to be between 1 and -1. And I'm going to go up and show the different angles that I could possibly get. Okay, so I'm going to split it out here. I might show it go around the circle twice. Okay, so we'll go around the circle one full time, which is 2 pi. And then let's go around the circle another full time. So let's get to 4 pi. Okay, so that means that this is pi, 3 pi, and then we can fill in even more. So I'm going to fill in pi over 2 for 90 degrees. 3 pi over 2. Then we'll have 2.5 pi, so 5 over 2 pi. And then 3.5 pi, so 7 over 2 pi. Okay, so we have loads of values here. So what I want to do is I want to look at graphing what I have here. So when I have sine 0, my answer is 0. So that's going to be here. Now, then I'm actually going to change where I put the 1 and -1, because they're really far away in comparison to how tight the x-axis is. So let's just put 1 and -1 here. Okay, so then by the time I get up to 90 degrees, right, if I look at this, it's not just going up in a linear way, okay, it is going to be a curve. But when I get up to 90 degrees or pi over 2, I'm getting an answer of 1. Okay, so when I get to pi over 2, my answer is going to be 1. Okay, so sine of pi over 2 gives me 1. Then, if we start to look at moving into my second quadrant, it's going to gradually go back down. Now, these answers are still going to be positive because sine is positive in the second quadrant, but it's going to move back down towards 0, again, in kind of a curve way. Okay? And then we're into this third quadrant where they're still going to the angle is increasing towards 90 degrees, but it's increasing in a quadrant where it's actually negative. So if the negative number is a bigger negative, it's actually more negative. Okay, so as I move towards -1 here, it's actually getting more negative as I go. Okay, so I'm moving, the angle is getting bigger, it's getting more towards pi over 2 or 90 degrees. Okay, but it's moving towards that where the answers are going to come out as negatives, so that I end up getting to -1. Okay, and then the angle starts getting smaller again, so we're still looking at the sine of the angles, and I'm moving back towards sine of 0, but I'm moving back towards sine of 0 again in a quadrant where it's all going to be negative, okay, because only cosine is positive in this quadrant. Okay, so it's all going to be negative, but it's going to be moving back towards 0. Okay, and this graph for sine, actually, we said the range is between -1 and 1, and it actually has a period of 2 pi. So every 2 pi, it starts the cycle again. Okay, so we know that because we know if I have something like the angle of 370 degrees, okay, well, that's a full circle of 360 degrees plus another 10 degrees. Okay, so it just starts again. So it's actually going to end up looking like a wave. Okay, so now I've finished 2 pi, so I'm back here, and then I get the first 90 degrees again. So the first pi over 2 after the 2 pi. Okay, so pi over 2, I'm back up at 1. And it's just going to follow then that exact same curve. Okay, so the period is just 2 pi. So after 2 pi, it just starts repeating itself, okay? And it is not linear, so it is not just a zigzag like this, okay? It is not linear, so it's a curve. So you kind of have to connect these dots in a nice curve. Okay, so that was a bit. Okay, so see what you think in terms of a curve. Okay, how you'd best connect them. Okay, and it will keep going like that again. So every time it goes through a multiple of 2 pi, it's going to start again. So at 4 pi, it starts again. At 6 pi, it starts again, and so on. Okay, now the cosine graph is very similar. Okay, so we're going to go through that in another video, but have a look and see what the difference will be. Okay, it starts at 1, so it's going to start up here instead, and then move towards 0 by the time it gets to 90 degrees. Okay, so maybe use this and try and graph cosine using that.